Florio wrote about the Cowboys. They've made most of their headlines this offseason by, number one, claiming they're all in for 2024, and number two, doing absolutely nothing to prove it. That dichotomy has helped conceal a far bigger problem. They have contractual messes with three of their key players, and they've shown no inclination to do anything other than delay, delay, and delay. Florio concludes, don't be mad at the players for wanting fair contracts. Be mad at the Cowboys, who seem to think playing for the team has some sort of inherent value that should cause players to happily take less. Keyshawn, once upon a time you played for this franchise and for that owner. Do you agree with this criticism?
No, I don't agree with Mike Florio at all. But what he did say there is the players should take less. That's what you and Michael Irvin thought. The players should take less to play with the Cowboys.
But he's saying they shouldn't take less.
No, they shouldn't take less. But for some reason, you and Michael think that.
I think Dak should have taken less the last time.
And as far as they don't do right by the players and things of that nature, that's not true. What young player did they ever lose that they wanted to keep, that they drafted, and they didn't pay? They pay them all. They pay them all. We can go as far back as Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin if we want to. Troy Aikman, Nate Newton. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on.
You just went Nate Newton.
We can go all the way back. But we can stay right here in present time.
Yep.
They took care of Zeke. They're going to take care of CeeDee Lamb. They took care of Diggs. They're going to take care of Parsons. They took care of Tyron Smith.
They did.
They're going to take care of Tyler Smith.
But has it led to any Super Bowls?
They took care of Zach Martin. I could just go on and on and on and on. There's this narrative that's out there as if the Cowboys are cheap. They don't want to pay their players. They're negotiating. That's a simple negotiation. It's not that deep.
I've never heard that narrative.
You don't know what they're doing, and they're not out in the public discussing what their plans are. Everybody all of a sudden gets their hair on the back of their neck and go crazy because the Dallas Cowboys are a team that gets clicks, and people like to talk about them, and they want to know what they're doing on a daily basis.
Well, people are reacting that way because Jerry Jones came out and said, we are all in, let's go. And then they've done nothing. And the only things that have been released is that they're unhappy with Micah and, would maybe want to get rid of Micah. And that CeeDee Lamb is refusing to come out and play unless he gets, unless he resets the market. And that they might let Dak Prescott, go and draft another quarterback. That's why people have their hair on fire. This is a created storm by the Cowboys. Make no mistake about it. So Keyshawn Johnson is just completely gaslighting us at this point. I mean, it's just he's just completely gaslighting us.
Because you don't know, the first thing you try to say is, well, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They got to make decisions, man. They're making the decisions. They're just not telling us what decisions they're making, Skip. In the end, do I think that 2 of the 3 players are going to get paid this year? Yes, I do. 2 of the 3. The 2 is going to get paid. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb and Michael Parsons. I think Dak Prescott plays it out, and I think y'all lose Dak Prescott at the end of the season. That's what I believe.
Glory be. Love to see it. Don't believe it. Okay. Jerry Jones knows what happened with Zeke and Dak the last time.
Yes.
He got played by both of them. Jerry does not like to lose negotiations, and he effectively lost both of them badly because they both became bad bets because they didn't give him any bang for the buck. Zeke looked like the best back in football his first 3 years. Then he holds out in Cabo, and finally, near the end of training camp, as the season approached, Jerry caved, as you recall, and Zeke came back from Cabo and signed a big new deal that made him the highest paid running back in pro football. And he hit the wall. Almost immediately, he went down, 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 and down for the next 4 years. He did not give you near the bang for the buck that you gave him. You almost paid him for what past tense he had done as opposed to
I actually thought after his contract the first 2 years he played well.
Again,
wasn't
the
his
numbers
rookie
went down
statistics,
and down,
but he
down.
actually played well.
Yards per game went down each of those years, but they went down every year he played for Dallas because his best year was his rookie year, and then it went down a little bit, but he still led the league in yards per game. Still led the league in yards per game the third year, and that's how he got the contract. And then it went down and down and down for 4 more years. But the point is, he didn't live up to being the best back in pro football the last 4 years, and even you would admit that. He had his moments, I give you that. Here and there, some short yardage, some goal line,
Yeah.
I give you that. Then Dak Prescott. Jerry did drag his feet because he wasn't sold on the 4th-round pick that was Dak Prescott. He knew in his heart of hearts, I'm not sure he's going to merit the kind of money that he is demanding from me. But in the end, because he just played it out with the franchise tag, and then here we go again, and you face a second tag, and he's going to make $44 million off the second tag. It's ridiculous. And Jerry finally caved in and paid him market value. And it was a whole lot of money that he is still on the hook for, and he still has nothing to show for it. He doesn't even have one trip to the NFC Championship game in the last 29 years. So the point is, the reason he's stuck in the mud right now with these negotiations is, I don't think he believes fully in Dak Prescott, and I don't either, because it's hard to sell him. It's hard to just in ink write that check where you say, yeah, he should be paid among the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, or make him the highest paid quarterback. What has he done for you in the last 3 playoff games to merit that kind of money? Nothing. He hasn't come close. He has been pathetic in the last 3 playoff games. Pathetic.
Y'all should move on from him.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying.
You should tell him to move.
So, okay. We've been doing a lot of Cowboys stuff. And, rather than just me kind of keep repeating myself, again and again and again, because there's just not new information. I really want to open this up to you all to really hear, what do you think the Cowboys should do? Whether you're a Dallas Cowboys fan or not. What do you think they should do? Because at this point, Keyshawn is trying to act like they have a plan. They have this master plan. Does anyone actually really believe that? Because I don't. I really don't. I mean, this whole idea of what they were doing. Because if they go all in and just re-sign everyone, right? They're just able to do it. How does that make the Cowboys better? It doesn't. Right? They're going to be the same team that they are. And if the Cowboys decide to make some moves and get rid of Dak, how are they ever all in? Or they trade Micah and get rid of Micah? How is that all in? Because first they said they were all in, and they said, no, we're all in on the players that we have, mainly these 3 main guys, CD, Micah, and Dak, and now we're thinking about potentially moving on from them. So I don't understand where we can think that they have a plan. They're gonna draft some players, and they're gonna win on some of them because they're good at drafting players. That's great. But can you draft enough players that is going to have a measurable impact that you're now going to be better than the 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and sorry, Cowboys fans, the Philadelphia Eagles? No. So again, I just don't know what the plan is. And now other people are talking about Trey Lance, which blows my mind. And if Trey Lance was anything, if Trey Lance was truly a guy that they're like, dude, Trey Lance is coming, the 49ers are a bunch of clowns for getting rid of him, then they would go to Dak and say, Dak, you're going to be benched. Trey Lance is playing next season. He's starting. Waive your no trade clause. We're going to try to trade you to we want to get you to a team that you can, be competitive to, maybe the Patriots. I don't know. I don't even want to name other random teams, but we're going to move on from you. Unless you want to take a pay cut or whatever. But if not, we understand you want your money. We're going to trade you. Otherwise, you're just going to be benched for a whole year. We know it's a bad look. We're just going to treat it practically like you got injured. And Trey Lance, you see what he does in practice. He's legit. We're moving on. And if that's the case, then you trade Dak. You're going to get something for Dak, of course, right? You're not going to get a 3rd-round pick for Dak. You're going to get something for Dak. You're going to get probably a pretty decent haul from a team for Dak. And, that would be a ballsy move. That's if Trey Lance was actually legit. Trey Lance is not legit because then, since Trey Lance has no time under his belt, you would be able to, get him on a cheap deal. I don't know if you have to officially extend him yet because I think he probably would, right? I forget what his contract timeline is exactly, but he's not going to, even if he's a great quarterback, right? Even if he plays one season and it's great, I don't think he can command a $55-60 million a year contract outside of him winning the Super Bowl, right? But that's obviously not going to happen. So I think we can already say Trey Lance is not him. Would be shocking, absolutely shocking if he truly ends up being him. So again, it's just where do the Cowboys go? I do not think they have a plan. I think they're facing the reality of this is a mess. We don't know how the best to move forward. Dak is good, but not amazing. He's up for a massive deal. He wants this massive deal. And that now goes back to what Keyshawn was saying about you want these players to take, pay cuts. That is what makes the NFL so much more interesting with the salary cap, that you have to fit this all in. That's what makes baseball less interesting, because you can just buy players and give them all the money in the world. And baseball kind of suffers to a degree for it. That's why all the same teams are just always buying up those players. It's always the wealthiest teams. And so, yes, I understand in one side, you're why are you telling these guys to take a pay cut? But it's do you want to win or not? And I understand, but it's not we're talking about going from 55 million to 10 million here, right? No one's saying that. So this idea of a pay cut of it being so drastic, it's do you want to win? If Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, if they're willing to take pay cuts and they're, the most winningest and, en route to be the most winningest quarterbacks, there must be something to that. Aaron Rodgers started eating and getting all his money and he hasn't gotten another Super Bowl since. So I just, if Dak Prescott says, no, I'm deserving of all this money, give it to me. And other quarterbacks that are at Dak's level, we are going to see a more and more trend of flirting with this idea of drafting quarterbacks or signing cheaper quarterbacks who are just pretty good and then stacking the roster, right? I think you'll see potentially, if Dak is relentless with this and only wants, the $55-60 million contract, whether he gets it with Dallas or somewhere else, and then he never wins a Super Bowl, you are going to see teams really be you know what? Why don't we get Baker Mayfield for $35 million? Why don't we get Gardner Minshew for 30, whatever he's getting? Because now we can stack this roster up. Now we can pay, Stephon Diggs all the money he wants and get CeeDee Lamb, and T. Higgins. Again, I'm making stuff up here. But we can stack the roster. We get a good offensive coach. We get, a good enough quarterback who's a consistent quarterback, not a star, not Patrick Mahomes, but consistent enough. Our OC and our offensive head coach who we hired is going to make him comfortable. We got the weapons. We're going to put the ball in the playmaker's hands. And there we go. I think you'll see a massive wave of that because it hurts to pay a quarterback $55-60 million a year only to not have them be a true game changer. And I think Dak is a good quarterback. And the last thing that I always hold out for, because I've called Dak out a lot. But the only thing that I give, the only caveat that I give about Dak is that I would be willing to see him play with a significantly true bona fide offensive head coach. Someone that is not, the last two coaches that he has had. Again, it's not like Andy Reid's growing trees or Sean McVay's or Shanahan's, but someone who is truly elite. That if Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback, then you would guess that a truly legit offensive head coach or an elite OC would be able to maybe make Dak from good to great. And that's why, the Cowboys should have made a play for the OC from the Detroit Lions. Shane Steichen, when he was available. They should have, gotten Sean Payton, Harbaugh. I mean, there was moves for them to make. Mike McCarthy, I think, is a nice coach. I think he's a good coach. Do not think he's great. Do not think he's amazing. But I think he's a good coach. In the NFL, the reality is that if you can just manage a team, if you can just actually coach and have your team not be a disaster, there's kind of a job for you. Because there's a lot of coaches that they hire that just can't function. They can't literally run a team. Nathaniel Hackett is the most recent example of that. They're just literally incapable of managing a team. The head coach from the Raiders, I can't think of his name right now, has proved that. He's a good OC. That just is what it is. We have that with some newer coaches, that they're just incapable of doing it. It's very similar with movies and directors. You see a lot of the same directors get movies, even if they're not great movies, because the reality is they know how to keep a budget. They know how to take notes from the producers and the studios. They know how to get all the pieces together and organize it. It's, I've been on sets. It's insane. It's chaos. So even if you're not a great director, there's still work for you because you're just capable. You can actually do it. You know what you're doing. And to me, that's where Mike McCarthy is. You can put him on any team, and at least you know that it's not just going to be a dumpster fire. It's not going to be a complete train wreck. Which, credit to Mike McCarthy for that. Because like I said, we've had plenty of coaches who are incapable of even doing that. That it's just a complete dumpster fire. So I think that is where some credit does go to Mike McCarthy. He hasn't held teams back significantly. He did win a Super Bowl. You can't be a complete trash moron coach and get to the Super Bowl, because there will be plenty of times for you to ruin that. I'm not going to tell you that he was, a big person pushing that train along, but he also wasn't completely holding it back and getting in the way. So that's just, my thoughts on Mike McCarthy as a whole, but I would be open to having, a better coach. But Jerry Jones, at that point now, it's like you needed to do that last year or the year before. I mean, I understand you took a chance at Mike McCarthy, which was already a slightly suspect hire to begin with, but at that time, you didn't have the Sean Paytons of the world available. You didn't really know Shane Steichen was legit, Ben Johnson who, so I get it. I understand Mike McCarthy was probably a really good hire at that time, but he's got the money. He could fire him at any time. Running it back now just doesn't make sense. So those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you think the Cowboys can do to genuinely improve their roster? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm, and it helps combat the trolls and the haters. Thank you so much, and see you next time.